When global fund managers debate the future of Japan's economic resurgence, the conversation invariably centers on the spectacular rally of the Nikkei 225, the government-backed revival of advanced semiconductor, foundries, or the strategic supply chain shift away from China. But a critical, systemic vulnerability is being completely overlooked by foreign capital. Deep within the foundational layer of Japanese manufacturing, a silent structural collapse is taking place. Walk through any modern residential construction site in Tokyo today, and you will find builders facing a bizarre, unprecedented bottleneck. A severe shortage of essential building materials, ranging from specialized vinyl, piping to entire modular housing units, like prefabricated system bathrooms. Step into a hospital, and medical staff are quietly raising concerns over the tightening supply of disposable plastic components. This is not a temporary logistical hiccup. It is the visible symptom of a profound, irreversible crisis in a sector that forms the literal bedrock of Japanese industry, the Naphtha petrochemical sector. For decades, Japan's massive petrochemical complexes, lining the coasts of Chiba, Yokkaichi, and Mizushima, have served as the unsung heroes behind the post-war economic miracle. They imported raw naphtha, cracked it into basic building blocks, like ethylene and propylene, and supplied high-purity derivatives to Toyota, Sony, and thousands of specialized Tier 2 and Tier 3 suppliers. However, the game has fundamentally changed. A perfect storm of brutal global shifts has pushed this critical industry past the tipping point. China's staggering petrochemical overcapacity, soaring domestic energy costs, and Japan's irreversible demographic decline have rendered Japan's traditional naphtha cracking business model completely unsustainable. While international financial media remains fixated on tech, hardware, and automotive earnings, Japan's domestic chemical giants are executing an unprecedented, agonizing retreat. Millions of tons of cracking capacity are being permanently mothballed. Multi-billion-dollar domestic assets are being written down, and iconic conglomerates are racing to completely exit the basic chemical business. In this deep dive, we will unpack the cold, hard data behind Japan's naphtha crisis, reveal why your portfolio companies are facing an invisible supply side squeeze, and analyze how this structural restructuring creates massive, distinct winners and losers in the Japanese equity market. To truly understand why this matters to an equity investor, we must first look at the disruptive, real-world consequences playing out across Japan right now. The petrochemical crisis is no longer a theoretical corporate headache. It is directly translated into acute shortages of domestic vinyl products and downstream building materials. Consider the construction sector. Prefabricated system bathrooms, which are an absolute standard in virtually all Japanese residential developments, rely heavily on fiber-reinforced plastics, specialized resins, and vinyl components, derived directly from domestic ethylene streams. As domestic chemical majors curtail their cracker utilization rates to cope with severe losses, the immediate domestic supply of these basic polymers has tightened dramatically. Lead times for critical components have extended, disrupting the construction schedules of major Japanese housing developers. Furthermore, polyvinyl chloride, or PVC, which is vital for infrastructure, pipes and window profiles, is feeling the squeeze. It's not just a matter of price, it is a structural deficit in local availability. In healthcare, specialized medical-grade plastics, used for everything from IV tubes to sterile packaging, are seeing erratic supply constraints. Investors holding shares in Japanese construction majors, housing manufacturers, or medical equipment suppliers are often blind to these localized micro-squeezes, attributing project delays or margin pressures to general inflation, rather than recognizing them as the early tremors of a major domestic industrial decoupling. The macroeconomic data confirms that this is a structural shift, not a cyclical dip. According to data from the Japan Petrochemical Industry Association, Japan's annual ethylene production has plummeted to levels not seen in decades, consistently hovering well below the psychological benchmark of 6 million tons. Cracker utilization rates across the country which historically maintained a highly efficient 90% or higher, have routinely dipped below the 80% threshold, a level where these capital-intensive facilities burn through cash rapidly. Look closely at the financial statements of the industry leaders, Mitsui Chemicals and Idemitsu. Kosan recently announced a joint consolidation of their ethylene complexes in the Chiba region, aiming to permanently eliminate hundreds of thousands of tons of cracking capacity. Even more starkly, Mitsubishi Chemical Group has publicly declared its intention to carve out and completely divest its petrochemical operations, seeking to isolate its portfolio from the highly volatile, low-margin basic chemical cycle. Sumitomo Chemical has faced historic, multi-billion-dollar consolidated net losses, driven substantially by sweeping structural reforms and asset impairments at its domestic and overseas petrochemical facilities. The data is entirely unequivocal. Japan's chemical industry is actively shrinking itself to survive. To understand why Japanese crackers can no longer compete, we must look across the sea to China. Over the past 5 years, Beijing has orchestrated an unprecedented investment boom in its domestic petrochemical sector. Giant state-backed mega-complexes, such as those run by Hengli, Petrochemical or Rongsheng. Petrochemical have come online with single-site capacities that dwarf entire regional clusters in Japan. China's explicit strategic goal was to achieve total self-sufficiency in basic chemicals and polymers, which are the inputs for its massive export machine. However, as China's domestic property sector slowed down and economic growth matured, this newly minted, staggering capacity created a massive global supply tsunami. China rapidly swung from being the world's largest importer of basic plastics to a net exporter, dumping low-priced polymer derivatives and chemicals across the Asian continent. Japanese facilities, which are significantly older, smaller, and less integrated than these new Chinese mega-sites, suddenly found their export markets completely erased and their domestic pricing power utterly destroyed. It is a textbook case of structural market displacement. Compounding this foreign pressure is an agonizing domestic cost structure. Naphtha cracking is an incredibly energy-intensive process. Japan imports virtually 100% of its crude oil and feedstock. Following the massive geopolitical realignments in energy markets over recent years, Japan's energy costs have surged structurally higher compared to rivals in the United States who enjoy cheap, abundant shale gas feeds, or the Middle East. Japanese producers are essentially buying expensive feedstock, processing it with expensive domestic electricity, and trying to sell it in a market flooded with subsidized Chinese supply. At the same time, Japan's domestic demographic reality offers no escape route. A shrinking, aging population means long-term structural demand, destruction for new housing starts, domestic automotive production, and general consumer goods within Japan. Domestic chemical executives are acutely aware of this trajectory. They realize that spending capital to upgrade aging, 50-year-old coastal facilities is an exercise in throwing good money after bad. The only logical choice left on the board is a systematic, managed decline. For international investors, this is where the story shifts, from a localized industrial restructuring to an active portfolio risk. Modern advanced manufacturing does not exist in a vacuum. When a nation's basic chemical foundation shrinks, it triggers a powerful supply chain domino effect that travels up the value chain to high-margin industries like automotive and technology. Take Japan's elite automotive sector. Global investors prize Toyota, Honda, and their Tier 1 suppliers for their legendary, just-in-time manufacturing efficiency. But a modern vehicle requires hundreds of kilograms of advanced engineering plastics, specialty rubber compounds, and high-performance adhesives. Many of these are custom formulated by Japanese chemical majors, using highly specific, local precursor streams from domestic crackers. If those domestic streams are permanently shut down, Japanese auto parts makers must transition to importing base chemicals from overseas, primarily from China or Southeast Asia. This shifts their cost structure, introduces massive geopolitical and maritime shipping risks, and complicates the strict quality control standards. that gave Japanese manufacturers their competitive edge.
The invisible risk for international investors
Holding Japanese equities is that the margin profiles of the nations celebrated export giants are quietly being undermined by the vulnerabilities of their uncelebrated domestic chemical. How do you, as an investor, successfully position a portfolio around this structural macro shift? The key lies in separating the chemical companies that are trapped in the basic commoditized cycle from those that are successfully transforming into high-value specialty players. The clear underperformers are those heavily anchored to domestic commodities, companies slower to rationalize their basic legacy. Cracking assets will continue to suffer from margin, destruction, and massive asset impairment charges that wipe out consolidated net income. Conversely, the strategic winners are the companies, proactively shedding their commoditized legacy, weights and aggressively reallocating capital toward high-margin specialty fields, where Japan still holds an absolute global monopoly. Think of specialized electronic materials utilized in the multi-layer, packaging of advanced AI microchips or specialized fluoropolymers, essential for the next generation of electric vehicle batteries. Companies that successfully exit the low-margin Naphtha cycle to become pure-play, high-entry barrier functional material. Providers are poised for massive multiple expansion. The smart capital is already rotated out of broad chemical ETFs and is laser-focused on these highly specialized, high-moat structural champions. The quiet collapse of Japan's Naphtha cracking sector is a profound structural warning sign. It demonstrates that even a world-class manufacturing superpower like Japan cannot completely isolate itself from the brutal forces of global market displacement and structural energy shocks. The domestic shortages of vinyl products, system bathrooms, and healthcare tools we see inside Japan today are not isolated incidents. They are the initial structural friction points of an industrial base that is actively undergoing a forced, radical re-engineering. For global markets, Japan remains an incredibly compelling investment destination, packed with hidden value and corporate governance catalysts. However, navigating this market successfully requires moving past the superficial narratives offered by mainstream financial networks. It demands a rigorous, granular understanding of the domestic, micro undercurrents that ultimately dictate long-term macro outcomes. The Naphtha crisis teaches us a fundamental lesson. The true risks and opportunities in Japan are almost always found beneath the surface, hidden in the critical supply chains that the rest of the world simply takes for granted. If you found this data-driven macro analysis valuable, please hit the like button and subscribe to the Japan Macro Report. Our mission is to bridge the information gap, bringing you critical, institutional-grade insights into Japan's domestic economy and investment landscape, straight from primary sources, before they hit Western headlines. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you think Japan's industrial restructuring will reshape your portfolio strategies for the coming years? Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next Macro Report.